have one more speaker that will take us through a session here, an exciting one. Our final speaker for this day would be Mr. Siyabonga Madolo, who's coming through as an entrepreneur. He's a business coach, he's a mentor and a speaker. He's got an over 18 years of leadership and business building experience. So this afternoon, we're going to really hear from him in terms of some of the work that he's done there at INSEED Development, supporting leaders and entrepreneurs, but also just pushing the practical, people-centered leadership approach where our businesses are concerned. He's a business coach and one person that has been in this space for quite some time. This morning, going into the afternoon, Mr. Madolo will be speaking to us on change management and leading through change. Mr. Siyabonga Madolo, it's over to you, sir.
Thank you so much, Katero. Good day and good evening, everyone, depending on which time zone you are joining us now on this masterclass. I am Siyabonga Madolo, born and based in East London of South Africa in the Eastern Cape province. I am very honored to be invited and be a contributor to this vital leadership and communication masterclass. On this session, we will be speaking on leadership as the power to influence, focusing on how clarity of purpose, emotional intelligence, and effective change communication shape credible and impactful leadership. My kickoff phrase is based on the late Dr. Miles Monroe's definition of leadership that, and I quote, "Leadership is the capacity to influence others through inspiration generated by a passion, motivated by a vision, which is birthed by a conviction that is produced by a purpose." And he flips this definition around to also say that leadership is the discovery of your purpose, a purpose that will produce your conviction, conviction which will produce your vision, vision that will produce your passion, and passion which is the key to inspiring people, and close quote. In the early 1990s, as a teenage boy, I was introduced to the teachings of Dr. Miles Monroe by my older brother, Mpumelelo. At the time, I could not have imagined how profoundly that moment would shape my understanding of leadership. His teachings
If I can come in there, Mr. Madolo, apologies. They're asking that you please move closer to the mic so we can hear you proper. You are a little bit far,
Okay,
yeah, just
all
come
right,
closer to the microphone so we're able to hear
okay,
you proper.
all
Thank you,
right.
sir.
So can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you. We can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, so I was saying I was introduced to Dr. Miles Monroe's teachings by my older brother, Mpumelelo. At that time, I could not have imagined how profoundly that moment would shape my understanding of leadership. His teachings awakened something inherent within me, the realization that leadership is not a title to be pursued, but a responsibility to be embraced. I still remember vividly attending one of his seminars when he visited our country in 1995. Sitting in that hall, listening to him speak about purpose, influence, and responsibility, something settled deep in me. It confirmed that leadership is about impact, not position. From that point onward, I became both a student and a practitioner of leadership. And over the years, through experience, reflection, and practice, one conviction has become clear to me that true leadership is stewardship. When leaders see themselves as stewards entrusted with people, resources, influence, and time, leadership shifts from self-interest to service. And if this understanding were truly embraced, we would see meaningful change and lasting transformation in our organizations. We would raise stewards who lead change for the betterment of our commercial, political, religious, and social institutions alike. Leadership at its highest form is not about power. It is about responsibility and how faithful we manage what has been entrusted to us. So let's move to lighting the way through change. Leaders as torchbearers. Co-authors Nancy Duarte and Patty Sanchez talk of leaders as torchbearers in their book Illuminate. Torchbearers light the torch for what season is next, what era is next. They call leaders torchbearers who don't just point to a destination. They light the path for what season is next, what era is unfolding. As we enter new seasons of life, leadership is not only about knowing where we are going, but about illuminating the path forward, the change for ourselves and for those following. People don't only need direction, they need visibility, reassurance, and meaning as they step into unknown. In their book, they also talk about 5 things that torchbearers do. 1, they speak. In other words, they tell what's happening around them, where they are going. Secondly, they tell stories to remind people of where they have been, what has happened, and where they should be probably consider going in the future that's related to past stories. 3, they create rituals. In other words, what are habits that we want to carry on for? And then 4, they use symbols that inspire. In other words, what are mile markers that we can use? But most importantly, leaders, they listen. They are emphatic and they understand the traveler's fear when stepping out into a new curb. It's dangerous waters, right? It's unknown territory. Torchbearers listen to that, but constantly ooze with empathy and the redream message. Now let's talk about the human response to change, resistance versus buy-in. Let's take a look at this image. Both sides show the word change. Same change, 2 completely different experiences. On the left, change feels like chaos, fear, uncertainty, and threat. On the right, change feels like clarity, opportunity, and hope. The difference is not the change itself. The difference is the human response to change. And this is the first leadership lesson, that change is not primarily a logistical process. Change is a human emotional process. When change is introduced, people move through a predictable emotional curve. First, it's shock. Some would say, I didn't see this coming. Second, denial. This won't really happen. Third, frustration. Why are they doing this? This will never work. This is where most resistance lives. Finally, acceptance. Okay, this is happening. How do I adapt? Buy-in only happens after people reach acceptance. Leaders often try to push people from shock straight to acceptance using logic, using more slides, more emails, more explanation, but people cannot think clearly while they feel unsafe. That is why logic alone does not create buy-in. If we look again at the image, there's fire, lightning, broken systems, a person with crossed arms. Crossed arms say, I don't feel safe. I don't trust this. No strategy can open the crossed arms. Only trust can. Now, if we look at the right-hand side of that image, we see an open window. We see light, we see green path. This represents psychological safety. People don't buy into change because it is perfect. Winning the hearts and the minds of people unlocks the buy-in of people. They buy into change because they feel respected, they feel informed as well, they feel involved. So what is the leader's real job in change? It is not to manage the plan first, nor to manage the timeline first, but to manage their own emotions first. Before performance comes safety, before execution comes understanding, and before commitment comes empathy. When leaders acknowledge fear, resistance softens. When leaders ignore fear, resistance hardens. Here is the mindset shift. As a leader, stop asking, why are they resisting? And start asking, what are they feeling? Behind resistance is usually fear. Fear of loss, fear of incompetence, fear of uncertainty, address the feelings, and the behavior changes. Every change will end in one or two of these places: resistance or buy-in. The difference is not how good the strategy is. The difference is how well leaders guide people through the emotional curve. So manage the emotions first, and buy-in becomes possible. So let's jump to change leadership. Leaders need sets of tools for leading through change in their organizations. I will now present Dr. John Cotter's 8-step model, a framework for driving organizational change. Let me start with a simple truth. Some change initiatives don't fail because people are resistant. They fail because people were never led through that change. What you see on the image is not a checklist, it is a leadership journey. Dr. Cotter groups change into 3 big phases. One is creating a climate for that change. Secondly is engaging the organization. The third phase is sustaining the momentum. So let's walk through this journey. Phase 1, creating a climate for that change. That is between step 1 and step 3. Step 1, if you look at step 1, is create a sense of urgency. Look at their faces, focused and leaning in. Urgency means helping people see why we must change now, what we risk if we don't, what opportunity we gain if we do. Without urgency, nothing moves. Step 2 is building a guiding coalition. And notice there that it is a group, not one hero. Change is too heavy for one person. You need influential, credible, committed people who carry the change together. If it depends only on you, it will collapse. Step 3 is develop a strategic vision. Here on this step, we see people looking towards a horizon. People don't follow plans. They follow a picture of the future. Where are we going? Why is it better? How life will improve? And vision turns uncertainty into a direction. And phase 2, engaging the organization, which is now steps 4 to 6. So look at step 4 is enlist a volunteer army. We see the crowds raising their hands. People must choose to join. You don't force change. You inspire participation. And when people help build the change or build anything, they protect it. And when you look at step 5 is enable action by removing barriers. We see the people breaking down the wall. Barriers might be policies, fear, skills gap, bureaucracy, or even toxic behavior. Leaders don't just motivate, they remove obstacles. If people are willing but are stuck, leadership has got so much work to do. And step 6 is generate short-term wins. We see the celebrations. Early wins prove the change is working. So those early wins build confidence. They silence doubt. Small wins create big momentum. So last phrase, which is phase 3, sustaining the momentum, that is your step 7 and 8. Step 7 is sustain acceleration. Don't slow down after early success. Use momentum to tackle bigger and harder challenges. Progress must keep moving forward. And then step 8 is anchor the change in culture. We see the anchor there. This means that change becomes the way we do things. It shows up in the hiring. It shows up in the training. It shows up in promotions and daily behavior. If it's not a culture, it won't last. And finally, this model teaches us powerful lessons for driving organizational change. That successful organizational transformation is a long-term, people-centered journey driven by leadership, not just a management project that can be rushed. My fellow torchbearers, allow me to say, change is not an event. Change is not an announcement. Change is leadership in action. When leaders follow the journey, they don't just manage change, they lead transformation. And I'll close off with my mantra derived from Dean Libaron Briggs: do your work, and not just your work and no more, but a little more for the lavishing sake. Do every work or project with so much honesty and diligence. Work with virtue for that which is worth all the rest. Put your heart into it. If you suffer as you must, and if you doubt as you must, just do it, and the sky will clear. And then out of your very doubt and suffering will be born the supreme joy of life. Over to you, Katia.
Mr. Sia Madolo, thank you very much, sir, for that insightful presentation indeed. And yeah, I like the fact that you took us through the 8 steps, and I'm sure each and every one of us can really relate in terms of where do we fit here, where those 8 John Cotter steps are concerned. Dr. John Cotter really appreciated leaders as torchbearers. We all need to position ourselves like that, lighting the path for the future. We were told earlier on that leaders are visionaries as well. So this would give us a sense of how then we move even beyond this particular session. Listening as a leader, it's very important, leading with empathy, but more or less just being able to embrace the changes that may come across may come upon in your organization as you go along. The change is leadership in action. That was powerful, and really appreciate you coming through, Mr. Sia. And just a reminder to everybody else that we're going to be opening the floor for about 10 minutes for